In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Captain Needa for the Legacy Collection. I would have to go back and check, but I think Needa might be the original of his particular type of tooling. But even if he's not, for the next several years, well into TVC 1.0, this Needa tooling happened to be reutilized so many times for so many different Imperial officers. And Needa, if I recall correctly, was repacked as well into the special action figure set, and I believe he was just labeled as an Imperial commander. So we'll just go ahead and take a closer look at him. To be honest, this is not one of my favorite Imperial officer molds. It's very clunky, and just for one example, I think the knees here, I always thought the knees looked swollen. And to be honest, I'm actually a bigger fan of like Ozzel's mold here in tooling, and Build-A-Droids and Tarkins and Veers, for instance. Those are much more preferable to me over this one. And even though he's super articulated, the joints, they just never really felt right to me. And you can't really utilize them, I think, as well as they could be. You take like the elbows here, for instance, they bend nowhere near 90 degrees. In fact, they only bend about 45. And at least for the swivel elbows, for instance, on like Ozzel, you can at least get them really close to 90 degrees, or you can have them at a full 180. Kind of hard to do that with this. And I think this officer's mold as well, it kind of set the trend for the rank badge being heavily inaccurate. I'm not entirely sure, but I think a lot of the rank badges for this particular tooling was reutilized for all the action figures going forward for the officers. This exact one here. Not sure if Hasbro changed that up at all, but I know a lot of the Imperial officers in this era, oftentimes their rank badges were totally inaccurate. But it seems like Hasbro has kind of corrected that a little bit with the few officers they've done in the last couple years. And throughout their history, sometimes they get it right and sometimes they don't. I think General Veers here, they got it right. Tarkin, they did. I think even Build-A-Droid here, they did. Despite all that, I'm glad to have Needa in my collection. He's one of my favorite Imperial officers. I do recall reading about him in the Revenge of the Sith novel. He was a lieutenant commander at that time. And I think he has a very interesting backstory. I would like to see him updated in the new officer's mold. In fact, as I've been thinking about it, I would like to see Needa updated even more than any other officer in the new sculpt here. Even more so than Tarkin, because at least the Tarkins we have, I think, are really good. Most of them, that is. I really like this Revenge of the Sith Tarkin. But Needa, I think this is the only Needa action figure that Hasbro's ever made. So it would be nice to see an update of him. The head sculpt, I think it's pretty good. Looks about close to the actor. And thinking back on it, I think the actor who played Needa unfortunately passed away a couple years ago now. I think it was 2022 or 23. I'd have to go back and check. Can take his officer's cap off, which is nice. Hair looks good. And does fit securely on his head. As for the rest of him, the tunic itself looks alright. The color is good. The gray blends in pretty nice with most of the other officers here. But that is one thing Hasbro never quite got right, is all the different shades of gray for the different eras for the officers. Changes over time, but he blends in alright. Has the black belt, the silver buckle, his black gloves on each hand. Now, some of the officers, one set I'm thinking of is like the TK-421 Stormtrooper, an officer set with the Imperial scanning crew. They just repainted the gloved hands here as a flesh color. I always thought that was kind of lazy. I used to own that pack years ago, and I do hope to track that down again at some point. But I always thought that was kind of funny. Still have the elastic band around the E11 there. And like I said, for the knees here, I always thought they looked swollen. I think Hasbro could have done a little bit of a better job on that. Then you have his boots. But he is super articulated. He does have a ball joint at the head. Has a pretty good range of motion. Does have his shoulders, which do have a very nice range of motion. It goes past 90. It does have hinged elbows, but again, it only goes about 45 degrees. Swivel wrists, swivel waist, and swivel hips, and hinged knees, and hinged ankles. For accessories, of course, the E11, and I think that's his only real accessory, but because he is part of the Legacy Collection, he did have a Build-A-Droid part, and I got this action figure loose in an auction a couple years ago now. It's probably been maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 years now. But the particular Build-A-Droid part he came with was U3PO, I think, which, thinking back on it, that might be one of the more expensive and harder to get Build-A-Droid action figures out there. The wave he was a part of is all Empire Strikes Back action figures, I think. The Emperor, for instance, based upon his original appearance. There was a Luke and Leia from the medical frigate. I think there were some Ugnaughts. A lot of characters like that. And there may have been a few others as well. I think that's pretty much all I can tell you about Captain Needa here. So would I recommend him for your collection? I definitely would if you're a big fan of Imperial officers, Needa in general. Like I said, he's one of my personal favorite Imperial officers. Sure, I'm not the biggest fan of the tooling, but still that doesn't take away from the character, and he serves his purpose as an action figure. He's been an important part of my collection. Happy to have him alongside the rest of the officers. And of course, if you're a big fan of the original trilogy, I think he probably has one of the most iconic scenes in Empire Strikes Back. So a lot of people probably like to have him just for that alone. Unfortunately, you can't really reenact the scene he's most famous for. Ozzo can. But perhaps at some point Hasbro could make a new Needa, but we'll see. Only time will tell on that. But he's a great action figure overall. Just some minor tweaks here and there, and then he'd be perfect. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for playing more in the future. There's always more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your support. And check out the links in the description if you haven't done so already. As always, thanks for watching.